Okay, first of all, that is a absolutely atrocious introduction to my story because it makes Richard Gere sound like the last gasp stop.
Julia Roberts became a household name with her dazzling smile, powerful performances, and unforgettable roles. From Pretty Woman to Erin Brockovich, she's ruled Hollywood for decades. But behind all the red carpets and movie magic, there's always been one bond fans couldn't stop talking about: her on-screen chemistry with Richard Gere. They lit up the screen not once, but twice, becoming one of Hollywood's favorite duos. But what's the story off camera? What really happened between Julia and Richard all these years later? Join us as we go back through her journey and uncover what she just revealed about Richard Gere and the kind of bond they share today. A small-town girl. Julia Fiona Roberts was born on October 28, 1967, in Atlanta, Georgia. Her parents, Betty Lou and Walter Grady Roberts, were once actors and playwrights. They even ran a children's acting school in Georgia. That school had a very special connection to history. Martin Luther King Jr.'s children went there, and Julia's father coached their daughter Yolanda in acting. In fact, the Kings helped pay the hospital bill when Julia was born. Julia grew up Catholic and had a mixed background of English, Irish, German, and other European roots. Her family life wasn't always smooth. Her parents divorced when she was just 5. After that, her mother married Michael Motes, a man Julia didn't like. He was often out of work and treated the family badly. Her mom later said marrying him was the biggest mistake of her life. Julia also had siblings who were in show business, including her brother Eric Roberts and niece Emma Roberts. Sadly, her younger half-sister Nancy passed away in 2014 due to a drug overdose. Julia's father died from cancer when she was only 10. As a child, Julia dreamed of becoming a vet. She also played the clarinet in her school band. After finishing high school in Smyrna, Georgia, she moved to New York to try acting. She signed with a modeling agency and joined acting classes, slowly stepping into the world that would soon know her name everywhere. The rise of America's sweetheart. Julia's acting journey started with small TV roles. One of her first was playing a young girl who had been through trauma in an episode of Crime Story in 1987. Her big screen debut came with Satisfaction in 1988, where she acted with Liam Neeson. Around the same time, she filmed a small part in a movie called Blood Red with her brother, though it was only released later. But things started looking up when she landed a role in Mystic Pizza, playing a teenage waitress. Critics noticed her right away. Roger Ebert, a top movie reviewer, called her a major beauty with a fierce energy. The next year, she played a young bride with diabetes in Steel Magnolias. The casting team had considered other actresses like Winona Ryder, but once they saw Julia, the decision was made. The director was hard on her during filming, but Julia's performance stood out. She earned her first Golden Globe and her first Oscar nomination.
Let's turn now to our big, huge Pretty Woman reunion. 25 years ago, it became an instant classic.
Then came Pretty Woman in 1990. Julia played a strong and lovable character who worked as a hooker and had a heart of gold. She starred opposite Richard Gere. That role made her a global star. Julia wasn't even the first choice. Many famous actresses had turned it down, but once she got the part, she made it unforgettable. She earned another Golden Globe and another Oscar nomination. She was paid $300,000, and the movie made over $463 million worldwide. Her red dress in the film became one of the most famous dresses in movie history. This was Julia's true breakthrough. Hits, misses, and a comeback. After Pretty Woman, Julia starred in Flatliners, about students trying to experience what happens after death. While critics had mixed feelings, the film became a cult classic. Then in 1991, she took on some big roles, like in Sleeping with the Enemy, where she played a woman escaping abuse, and in Hook, where she became a tiny Tinkerbell in a fantasy world. She also did Dying Young, a love story about illness. These movies didn't impress critics much, but they made good money. After that, Julia took a short break. She only had a cameo in The Player and was even on the cover of People magazine with the question, "What happened to Julia Roberts?" But she came back strong in 1993 with The Pelican Brief, starring alongside Denzel Washington. The film made nearly $200 million. Her next few films didn't do well, including I Love Trouble and Something to Talk About. Still, she wasn't done. In 1996, she appeared on Friends, playing opposite Matthew Perry. That same year, she did Michael Collins with Liam Neeson and Mary Riley, which sadly flopped. By 1997, Julia found her place again with romantic comedies. In My Best Friend's Wedding, she played a food critic trying to win back her best friend. Critics loved her in the role. The film became a hit, earning nearly $300 million. In the same year, she also starred with Mel Gibson in Conspiracy Theory. Even if the film wasn't a huge hit with critics, it still did well at the box office. Julia then appeared in Sesame Street with Elmo and starred in Stepmom with Susan Sarandon, where she played the future stepmother of children whose real mom was dying. Reviews were mixed, but the film made over $150 million. In 1999, she acted in Notting Hill with Hugh Grant. She played a world-famous actress who falls in love with a bookstore owner. It became one of the biggest British romantic hits ever, earning over $360 million. Critics said Julia was still the queen of romantic comedies. That same year, she reunited with Richard Gere in Runaway Bride, playing a woman known for leaving grooms at the altar. Reviews were mixed, but the movie was another big success, making over $300 million. From star power to serious acclaim, Julia had always been a star, but in 2000 she proved she was much more than a pretty face. She became the first actress ever to be paid $20 million for a single role. That role was Erin Brockovich, where she played a real-life woman who fought against a big company that poisoned a town's water. Critics were amazed. Rolling Stone said she showed how Erin tried to stay responsible to her children and to a job that has provided her with a first taste of self-esteem. Entertainment Weekly called her performance a delight. The film made more than $250 million worldwide and gave Julia her first Oscar win for Best Actress. That same year, she was named one of the most powerful women in Hollywood, and her company Shoelace Productions got a deal with Joe Roth. After Erin Brockovich, Julia starred in The Mexican with Brad Pitt. Even though the film was promoted as a romantic comedy, Julia and Brad didn't share much screen time. Still, fans loved seeing them together, and the movie made almost $67 million in North America. She followed that with America's Sweethearts, where she played the sister of a famous actress. Despite its all-star cast, including Billy Crystal and Catherine Zeta-Jones, critics said the film wasn't very deep, but it still earned over $138 million. Finally, Julia joined a huge team of stars in Ocean's 11, a stylish heist movie. She played Tess Ocean, the ex-wife of George Clooney's character. The film became a massive hit, making $450 million around the world, and proving Julia was still one of Hollywood's biggest draws. The highs, the comebacks, and the roles that shaped her. In 2003, Julia Roberts made headlines again when she earned a record-breaking $25 million for a single role. She played an art history professor in Mona Lisa's Smile, set in the 1950s. The film followed her character trying to open her students' minds to modern ideas. Critics weren't blown away, calling the film predictable and safe, but it still made over $141 million. The very next year, she took over a role originally meant for Cate Blanchett in Closer, a romantic drama with a powerful cast including Jude Law, Natalie Portman, and Clive Owen. The same year, she returned as Tess Ocean in Ocean's 12. This sequel was different from the first one, and in one funny scene, her character pretended to be Julia Roberts herself. Though the movie got mixed reviews, it was another huge box office hit, making over $360 million worldwide. In 2005, fans were surprised to see Julia appear in a music video for the song Dream Girl by Dave Matthews Band. It was her first and only music video. From 2002 to 2005, she was also named one of the highest-paid actresses every single year by The Hollywood Reporter, showing that her star power hadn't faded. Stage fumbles and big-screen comebacks. In 2006, Julia stepped into something new, Broadway. She starred in a play called 3 Days of Rain, alongside Bradley Cooper and Paul Rudd. It opened strong, pulling in nearly $1 million in its first week. But critics were not kind. The New York Times said she seemed self-conscious on stage, and New York Post critic Clive Barnes didn't hold back, writing, "Hated the play. To be sadly honest, even hated her." Still, Julia stayed busy. That same year, she lent her voice to animated characters in The Ant Bully and Charlotte's Web. Then in 2007, she took on a powerful role in Charlie Wilson's War, playing a wealthy woman who pushed a congressman to support a war effort. She acted alongside Tom Hanks and Philip Seymour Hoffman. The film earned strong reviews and over $119 million, and Julia received her 6th Golden Globe nomination. She kept working in more emotional roles too. In Fireflies in the Garden, which premiered in 2008, Julia played a mother whose death shapes the story. Although the movie didn't release in North America until 2011, it was first shown in Europe and at a film festival in Berlin. In 2009, she teamed up again with Clive Owen in Duplicity, playing a CIA agent caught in a risky plan. Critics had mixed feelings about the film, but they loved her performance. The New York Times said she had left behind her America's sweetheart style and now used it only when it helped the character. She was 41 at the time and, as they put it, unmistakably in her prime. New roles, new risks. In 2010, Julia Roberts showed she could still command both the screen and the paycheck. She appeared in the romantic comedy Valentine's Day, which had a huge ensemble cast. Even though her part lasted just 6 minutes, she earned $3 million up front and also received a share of the profits. That same year, she starred in Eat, Pray, Love, playing a woman rebuilding her life after a painful divorce. The story followed her journey from Italy to India to Bali and became her biggest box office opening since America's Sweethearts. After that, she joined Tom Hanks in Larry Crown, a film about a middle-aged man going back to college. Tom directed the movie as well. While critics weren't overly impressed, Julia's lighthearted performance was one of the highlights. In 2012, she took on a daring new role in Mirror, Mirror, a twist on the Snow White story where she played the evil stepmother. Reviews were mixed. Rolling Stone said she was trying way too hard, while Cinema Blend noted she was clearly having fun with the part and could have pushed it even further. Despite the criticism, the film made $183 million worldwide. But it was in 2013 that she reminded audiences just how powerful she could be. In August, Osage County, she starred alongside Meryl Streep and Ewan McGregor in a tense family drama about a broken family reuniting after their father goes missing. Julia's performance was intense and raw, earning her several award nominations, including her 4th Oscar nod, this time for Best Supporting Actress. Then in 2014, she made a strong impression with the HBO film The Normal Heart, based on the early days of the AIDS crisis. Julia played Dr. Emma Bruckner, inspired by a real-life doctor who treated AIDS patients. Vanity Fair praised her performance, saying she delivered her lines with the same anger and fire she had shown in Erin Brockovich. The role earned her another Emmy nomination. She didn't slow down. That same year, she lent her voice to a documentary episode in the series Makers, Women Who Make America. And in 2015, she modeled for Givenchy's fashion campaign. Julia also reunited with Pretty Woman director Gary Marshall for the movie Mother's Day in 2016. Although she only filmed for 4 days, she was paid $3 million. The movie didn't do well, but later that year she starred with George Clooney in Money Monster, directed by Jodie Foster. The thriller earned better reviews and $93 million worldwide. In 2017, she played a mother again in the heartwarming film Wonder, about a boy with a rare facial condition. The movie earned over $300 million, and critics praised her gentle yet strong performance. That same year, she voiced the leader of the Smurfs in Smurfs, The Lost Village. In 2018, she starred in Ben is Back, another emotional film about a mother helping her son fight addiction. Critics said she was the best part of the movie. But perhaps the biggest surprise came when she took on her first regular TV role in Homecoming, a psychological thriller streaming on Amazon. Julia played a caseworker caught in a dark mystery, and critics called her performance haunting and gripping. She received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Drama Series, proving that even after decades at the top, Julia Roberts still knows how to surprise audiences and still knows how to shine. But even with all these achievements, some of Julia's biggest stories come from the very start of her career. One of the most surprising involves the film that made her a global star, and how it almost looked nothing like the version we know today. The dark truth behind Pretty Woman's first script. Julia Roberts didn't step into Pretty Woman expecting a romantic comedy. The movie was originally a completely different story. It was going to be called $3,000, named after the price Edward paid Vivian for one night. In this first version, Vivian was a drug addict. The story was dark, and it ended in a sad, painful way. Edward would leave her in a dirty alley, throw money at her, and drive away. That's how it was supposed to end. Julia said on the Graham Norton show, "I got that part in that movie and felt really proud, but when the production company folded and the film disappeared, I was crushed. It was a big moment for her and she thought it was gone for good. But then something totally unexpected happened. Disney took over the project. Julia was shocked. She said, I went to Disney. Are they going to animate it? How does this become a Disney movie?" She didn't think Disney would ever touch something like this. But they didn't just take it, they changed it. They made it funny, romantic, and gave it a happy ending. That rewrite is what created the version of Pretty Woman the world fell in love with. It also gave Julia Roberts a career-changing role. Still, knowing where it started and how close it came to never happening adds a lot more depth to the story. She didn't just play the role, she lived it. Julia Roberts wanted to play Vivian the right way. She didn't want to fake it or guess what that life looked like. She went out and met real women who were in the same situation as her character. Barbara Marshall, the wife of director Gary Marshall, remembered how serious Julia was about preparing. She said, "I recruited 2 young women who came to the clinic regularly, and I paid them $35 each to meet with Julia." Roberts didn't just talk to them and leave, she connected with them. Barbara recalled, about 20 minutes later, Julia yelled from the end of the hall, "Bye, Barbara, we're going to take a drive. We'll be back later." Julia left with the girls and hit the streets to learn about their world. Barbara was worried and said, "Your star just left with a group of girls and I think they were heading to Hollywood Boulevard. I'm worried. What if she doesn't come back?" But Julia wasn't afraid. Barbara said, "Roberts is one tough lady who can take care of herself on and off camera." That story shows how committed Julia was, even though she was just 21 when filming began. She was young, but she was serious about getting it right. Her heart, her effort, and her realness made Vivian someone the world loved. Not just a character, but a woman with a soul. The age gap that shocked the audience. When Pretty Woman came out in 1990, it wasn't just the story that caught people's attention. It was also the age difference between the two stars. Julia Roberts was only 22 years old when the movie was filmed. Richard Gere, on the other hand, was 40. That's an 18-year age gap. While it didn't bother everyone, many viewers noticed it, some even questioned it. Julia was fresh in Hollywood, just beginning to shine. Richard Gere was already a big name with many films behind him. They were in 2 very different places in life, but their chemistry on screen made it work. Director Gary Marshall saw something special between them and shaped the film around that connection. Still, some critics had mixed feelings. The concern wasn't only about their ages, it was also about how Vivian's job was shown. In the film, she dreams of a man on a white horse coming to rescue her. It played into the idea that women in that line of work need to be saved. That part of the story didn't sit well with everyone, especially years later. Looking back, it's easy to see why the age gap and the rescue storyline got people talking, but at the time, most viewers were swept away by the charm of the characters, the clothes, the music, and the happy ending that Hollywood served. Runaway Bride, a softer reunion with less noise. 9 years after Pretty Woman, Julia Roberts and Richard Gere reunited for another romantic comedy, Runaway Bride. This time things were different. Julia was now 31 and Gere was 49. The age gap was still there, but it didn't feel as sharp. Maybe because she was older. Maybe because her character, Maggie Carpenter, was a strong, smart woman from a small town who had her own story to tell. Gere played Ike Graham, a journalist who had written an article about her, calling her a bride who kept running away. When Maggie pushed back, Ike traveled to her town to find out the real story. Just like in Pretty Woman, the two started off with conflict and slowly fell in love. But this time the tone was much lighter. The film had a PG rating and focused more on funny moments and family drama. It didn't deal with heavy themes like work or class differences. Because of that, the audience viewed the age gap in a different way. It wasn't so much about the years between them, it was about the characters and how they connected. And maybe because Julia's role in this film was more about independence, viewers saw her as someone on equal footing with Gere. Their chemistry was still there, but it felt softer, more balanced and more believable. The bond between Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. Julia Roberts has been one of Hollywood's biggest stars for more than 3 decades. With so many iconic roles behind her, it's natural for people to wonder what became of the characters she brought to life. In 2023, she joined Gayle King on CBS Mornings for a fun game of Where Are They Now about her most famous on-screen personas. When Pretty Woman came up, Julia gave an answer no one expected. She imagined Edward, Richard Gere's character, dying peacefully in his sleep from a heart attack, smiling, and then added, "And now she runs his business." It sounded like she was joking, but it gave fans a glimpse into how she sometimes thinks about the future of her characters. In her mind, Vivian didn't stay the same. She used everything she learned from Edward and became a powerful woman, running the company he left behind. It was a dark but fascinating take on the fairy tale ending everyone remembers. Julia may have been half joking, but her words painted a very different picture of what happened after the credits rolled. This theory showed just how much Vivian had grown, and how even after decades, Julia still carries that character with her. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere didn't just play lovers on screen. Over the years, they became real-life friends. Their first film together, Pretty Woman, launched Julia into worldwide stardom and earned her an Oscar nomination. 9 years later, in 1999, they teamed up again for Runaway Bride, a romantic comedy about a small-town woman who keeps leaving her grooms at the altar. Gere played a reporter sent to cover her story. Directed by Gary Marshall, the same man behind Pretty Woman, the film became another beloved hit, but their connection started even before the cameras rolled. Gere once shared that Gary Marshall had brought Julia to his apartment, which doubled as his office, so they could meet privately. "I was so mesmerized," Gere said in a 2015 interview. Marshall later recalled how he excused himself to the restroom, and when he came back, the 2 actors were at the end of the hall just staring at each other. "Right there," I said, "look at that chemistry. They don't know each other and they're doing great," the director remembered. Gere agreed, saying, "Yeah, we loved each other immediately, so it was a nice thing." Their bond didn't fade over time. Even in a 2024 interview at Cannes, Gere said of their first meeting, "When I met her the first time, she just glowed. She hadn't become Julia Roberts. She was just this delightful person." These stories make it clear their friendship went far beyond rehearsed lines and scripted kisses. Julia convinced Gere to take the role. While Richard Gere may seem like the obvious choice now, at the time of Pretty Woman's production, he wasn't sure about the movie. Julia Roberts was still a newcomer, and Gere was already an established leading man. Julia later told SiriusXM in 2017 that she had been nervous when she first met him. "He's a very serious actor, and he had very specific thoughts about the movie and the part and what worked and didn't work for him," she explained. "I think I just nodded and smiled a lot and agreed with everything he said. I said, you have to do this movie. If you don't do this movie and it falls apart and I lose this job, it'll just be terrible." I kind of pleaded with him in a very real way. Her honesty and energy worked. Gere signed on, and the rest is history. Without her convincing him, the film might never have happened the way we know it. Their real-life chemistry was so strong that director Gary Marshall built the romantic comedy around it, reshaping what had once been a dark story about addiction into a love story for the ages. Pretty Woman went on to gross more than $463 million worldwide, cementing Julia's status as America's sweetheart and Gere's as a romantic lead. Friendship, beyond Hollywood, and personal advice. Even after the success of Runaway Bride and the passing of director Gary Marshall in 2016, Julia Roberts and Richard Gere have remained close friends. Gere told Entertainment Tonight in 2017 that he spoke with Julia all the time, even joking that at one point he spoke to her 3 or 4 times a day. Their connection has lasted decades, even though they haven't shared the screen since Runaway Bride. Gere has said that without Marshall, their collaborations were a kind of lightning in a bottle that couldn't be recreated. Gary was the glue of all of that. "It couldn't be done without Gary," he explained in a 2024 interview. "That was lightning in a bottle. You can't make that happen again. If that was easy and you can do it again, the computer would do it. It was a moment in all of our lives. She can't be in that same place then. I can't be in that place. We don't have Gary to hold it all together, his lightness, sense of humor, and romanticism. Julia herself still thinks about those on-screen relationships. Speaking again on CBS Mornings in 2023, she said that unlike her dark theory about Edward's fate in Pretty Woman, she imagines her and Gere's characters in Runaway Bride are still together. They stay together. He doesn't die in this one. They're going to stay together, she said. It was a much more hopeful view of the story, showing how she separates those two roles in her mind. Away from the screen, Gere has also been a source of advice for Julia in her personal life. Now happily married to Spanish activist Alejandra Silva, Gere often shares what he's learned about keeping romance alive. A source told Closer that Richard has found his true love and happiness with Alejandra by using a few simple tools, and he can't resist sharing them with his married friends, especially Julia. According to The Insider, Gere has urged Julia to be more zen, to slow down and pause each day for a few minutes to just breathe, so she can find peace and avoid stress. He also encourages her to embrace her husband Danny Moder whenever she can, reminding her that sparks and romance are what every couple needs for survival. Julia and Danny have had their ups and downs over the years. They don't want divorce, but the pressures of Hollywood and their busy schedules have tested their relationship. Another source told Closer in July that Julia is making a big effort to support Danny when he's on location for work, even if it means doing her own thing while he's filming. The goal is to start making their marriage a priority again. Time together is a big part of that plan. In July, the couple appeared together at Wimbledon in London, signaling that they're taking steps to reconnect. Time together is a big priority again, The Insider said. They want to take more romantic trips together, and Wimbledon was a really great start. This peek into their private lives shows how Richard Gere is not just Julia's old co-star, but also someone who genuinely wants her to find the same kind of lasting happiness he has found. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere's story remains more than a Hollywood romance. It's a friendship built over decades, full of shared memories, support, and mutual respect. What's your favorite on-screen moment between Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, Pretty Woman or Runaway Bride, and why? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.